Hello, and welcome to the Counselor Overview for creating and submitting insurance claims. We'll start here within a patient profile within the Invoices tab, and we'll open an invoice that we've already created. Now, typically at this point, the patient has been seen by the provider's created the virtual super bill. That virtual super bill has then been used to generate the invoice. And so at this point in the kind of general workflow, the invoice has been created, all the information has been transferred over, including the specific line items. Generally speaking, any private pay component for that patient would be taken before they leave. So at this point in the workflow, we're looking at kind of the next step. The patient has left and you want to submit the claim. Now, it's important to note that you can submit the claim, of course, immediately as soon as the patient walks out. You could put this on hold and come back to this later, whatever works in general best with your workflow. And as referenced in previous video overviews, you can utilize the appointment lifecycle summary to monitor the progress of this super bill, invoice, and claim. So it gives you a very convenient place that if in your clinic you say, okay, we want the patient to be seen, we want the provider to create the virtual super bill, that alert to be sent to the front office staff who will then generate the invoice and take any private pay component, and then perhaps we want to leave it there. Perfectly fine. Or if you say we want the front office or back office staff to then submit the claim right away, once again, either of those are perfectly good workflows, and there are tools within Counselor to be able to track that to make sure that nothing gets missed. What we're going to do here is we're going to pick up the workflow from this point, regardless of whether the patient just left or we're doing it at a later time. Regardless, we go into the patient invoice, into the claims tab, and we would click Start New Claim. Now, what you'll notice here is this is really a review process. There's very little you have to do in these areas. Now, I will say for some of you that may perhaps have unique payer situations, meaning like you work with your state Medicaid and they have specific requirements, or you're a non-participating provider with Medicare, or other specific maybe workers' compensation or other things. There are tools built within these screens that are designed to assist with your specific needs. We're not going to go through all those today, but the point is for the most common claims being submitted, this is really just a review process. So basically what you're saying is, okay, for this patient, we can see the contact information, right? This would have been entered when the patient first called in, or perhaps when they came into the office. The insurance information, comes to the next tab here, automatically is filling in, right? This is pulling from the patient profile. So with each one of these steps, if the work was done previously, capturing the patient's profile information, capturing the insurance information, nothing needs to be entered along the way. Now within the insurance tab, I should note at the very bottom, there is the ability to add a secondary plan. So if this patient had a secondary plan, you can click on this, say yes, that will then open an option for a secondary insurance payer. Okay, so that's an option for you. We're going to go ahead and pull that one off. And you actually can add more. You could add a tertiary there as well. But we'll stick with one primary insurance. All right, with the diagnosis information, that information is flowing over directly from the visit into the claims wizard here. So we can see here we have the provider. We can see the NPI, of course, automatically loads. Currently, what we're showing here is that the referring physician is not loading. Now, if the provider had listed a referring physician in the patient visit screen, then it would have been pulled over automatically. However, it's important to know that you can add them on the fly as well. So very easy, you can add them along the way. This is most specifically important, a requirement when we're talking about Medicare Part B, traditional Medicare. In fact, Counselor has a checking process built in, or a scrub process, that if you go ahead and try to complete this claim, and this is a traditional Medicare recipient, if you do not have the physician information entered, it will stop you there. Okay, and throughout this process, Counselor actually performs a scrub of the claim, looking for any common errors or omissions. So if there are any issues, our focus is that we want you to be able to correct it within Counselor immediately, and then submit a clean claim. Right. So here we have our physician information. Of course, if it's not required, you do not need to enter this. We can see the IC10 codes listed below. Once again, these came directly from the patient visit, so the provider has already made these selections. There's no need to have to enter them manually. Now they can be modified. So if you are a coding reimbursement specialist, you're looking at these codes and you need to make some changes, they are editable within this screen. Okay. meaning you can remove some, you can add some right from there. All right, let's jump ahead to the billing tab. Once again, this information will fill automatically, so that will all pre-fill. There's a tool at the top here that does allow you to switch between the entity type, meaning how you're going to bill to this payer. Are you going to bill as a group, or are you going to bill as an individual? Once again, whichever one you choose, Counselor will update the information based on the specific provider and clinic profile, all under the administration section. So when you get to the point of creating the claim, all you're doing is saying, oh, for UHC we bill as a group, and for Blue Cross Blue Shield we bill as an individual, right? So you're just making that change, but the settings are automatically updating along with you. Okay, we can see the service location information automatically fills in. Then at the bottom we can see the codes, right? Here's a CPT code that came over from the visit. Here's a second CPT code. In this case, we also are submitting MIPS measures, so we can see 2 of those as well. You will need to set the place of service. The most common place of service by far is number 11 office. There are other options, so we encourage you to refer to your building coding reimbursement specialist as to what the proper place of service is, particularly if you're anywhere other than a traditional clinic. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the top here and look in the optionals tab. Now this is one that is not frequently used. Once again, this falls into that territory of if you have specific payers with specific needs, then you may be utilizing this screen. Typically in that case, you reach out to us and we can talk this through with you to make sure that the information is being entered in the proper way so that it ends up in the claim in the proper way. All right, the last step here is I'm going to click on the Complete tab. This is where we can make a quick decision, and that basically means, okay, we want to finish this claim, but do we want this claim to go out to a claims clearinghouse or automatically, or do we want to load that claim ourselves into the claims clearinghouse? Now, within Counselor, Counselor has the ability to integrate with 2 clearinghouses, ClaimMD as well as Apex. If you work with ClaimMD or Apex, just by selecting this first option and then clicking Save, Counselor will perform the scrub of the claim, and your claim will go directly out to that clearinghouse. There's nothing else for you to do. It all happens automatically. Okay. If you work with any other clearinghouse, right, you would typically just leave this as none selected and go ahead and click Save. That will cause, once again, Counselor to run a scrub of the claim, look for any common errors or omissions, and then save the claim file that you can download and then upload into any system that you wish, any clearinghouse that you wish. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and take the scenario though we're submitting this claim, let's say to ClaimMD. We'll go ahead and click Save. That will, once again, run the scrub. Now, in this case, we passed the scrub, right? It didn't find any errors or omissions. And common errors or omissions would be that the patient's zip code wasn't entered, for example. Maybe the NPI for the referring physician wasn't in place, or maybe a referring physician wasn't noted at all. The NPI for your clinic wasn't in place. So the point is, it's looking over a whole wide range of criteria and saying, hey, is this a clean claim? Right? It can't say necessarily if everything on the claim is correct and coded properly, but what it can say is, hey, all the components that we need to have a high level of confidence that this claim will get to the clearinghouse successfully, pass their checks, and get on to the payer. Right? We really want to reduce the workload that you have in fixing claims. We want them to go out clean to start. Now, as you can see, we have the claim record here, so we can see we created the claim. We could open that back up as well. But most importantly, there are 2 claim files that are automatically created, whether or not you send this claim through to ClaimMD or Apex. Counselor will create the claim file. So here on the right, we have the 1500. Now, this is an editable 1500. So you could pop in here, you can make changes, you could download it, you could print it. The template is already built in, so you do not need the pre-printed forms. You would just print this as is. Okay, that's not terribly commonly used anymore, but if you have payers that are specifically requesting that you provide them with a paper 1500, you absolutely can. Okay. The second option here is the 837P. The 837P is the preferred version of the claim. It's preferred by payers, it's preferred by clearinghouses. It's a fully digital version of the claim, meaning it doesn't have the limitations that you have with the 1500. So this is a really powerful and really efficient way of transmitting the claim. So in fact, 837P is how Counselor transmits the claim to ClaimMD and to Apex. It speeds up the time that the overview of the claim. It also reduces the overall errors in that process. So overall, it speeds the process and helps you get paid faster. It also gives you the ability to have as many lines of service as you want. So with the 1500, one of the significant limitations is you can only have 6 lines of service, meaning if you provided autological evaluation and a VNG, and maybe you're trying to put MIPS codes on those as well, you run out of space in a hurry, and then you're building a second claim form. With the 837P, that never happens. You can have as many services and products, as many items as you want on that claim. So very, very efficient. And so if you are working with a clearinghouse other than ClaimMD or Apex, we do recommend that you would download the 837 and load that into the clearinghouse. That's going to be the most efficient method as well, assuming they support that, and there's an extremely good chance that they do. So point being is, however you wish to create, or however you wish the claim to go out, whether it's going directly to ClaimMD or to Apex, or you wish to download, you go through the exact same steps with the exception of the very last step when you say whether you're sending out to the clearinghouse or not. Otherwise, it's the exact same steps. All along this process, of course, as I mentioned, Counselor is checking to make sure that everything is done correctly. So you can always refer back to this. But at this point, once it's gone to the clearinghouse, you likely will be tracking the claim from there. Of course, we are happy to walk any of these steps through with you, particularly if you have any particular needs or anything you'd like us to discuss. So give us a call, email us, live chat us. We're always happy to help. And thank you very much for joining us for the Creating and Submitting Insurance Claims tutorial.